We're going to go ahead and begin our practice. I know there may be, um, some more that may be joining us in a little bit. But what I wanted to talk about today is something that's showing up for me, and it may be showing up for you. And that's this awareness of how much polarity there is in this world. And the nice thing about living in this 3D reality is this idea of contrast and all these different expressions, and that can be a really great thing. But lately, or at least this past year, and it's not stopping, there seems to be just a lot of aggressive polarity. And I have purposely kind of stayed away from mass media, even though you can't help not to see some. And just for an example, yesterday, I think it was on Instagram, it was some kind of social media, and something popped up, and it wasn't anybody I was connected with, but it was showing all of the scenes of what's happening right now between Israel and Palestine. And honestly, you guys, I didn't even know this was going on. And I happened to be reading a post from a Palestinian who was talking about how his family had been displaced, and the bullying and the intimidation and the violence that was happening, and people getting thrown out of their homes and people being murdered. And I got so wrapped up in his story, and I'm like, what is going on? And it led me to a few other things because I wanted to educate myself. Like, I didn't realize, like, there's always stuff happening in the Middle East, and there's always tension between these two nations. But I was reading more accounts, and I was the accounts I was reading was actually really touching to the heart. It wasn't opinionated, it wasn't political, it wasn't religious. It was really just these people talking from their heart about it. And I was like, whoa, I kind of sat with it a minute. I'm like, what is going on? And then I saw some other things, that connected to it, that was giving a take from the Jewish standpoint. And there's so much history between the nations. And of course, then that makes you think. And I realized what was happening. I got into this story, and I was being pulled this direction when I heard this person. I was being pulled this direction when I heard this person. And I realized that I was getting caught up in um, that energy. And I don't want to be in that energy. And I hate that it's happening. My heart goes out to them, but what can I do? Like, some things are really kind of out of our control. And sometimes we just have to bear witness to what's happening and hold space for it, and to send as much love and light we can to the situation. But this is happening everywhere in so many different arenas and so many pockets of the world. And it may be even happening in your own head, because what's happening is, because there's so much coming, this is like information overload right now for all of us. And especially with what's happening, even with what's just happened with the pipeline, all this more confusion and chaos and craziness. And we have to remember, as yogis, what we're trying to do is provide a sustained practice of yoga, a sustained state of yoga. And if you drop really into your meditation, if you really get into that pure sweet space, through your breath work, or if you drop into that space after a practice, kind of wrings everything out of your body, then you drop into this place of neutrality. And in this place of neutrality, you know, I've mentioned this many times over in the past, you can come to the mat being really angry or upset about something. And then by the time you enter practice, it's like, oh yeah, well, that's not great. But you don't have the strong emotion tied to it anymore. And you're not caught up in the extreme nature of it. And you're coming from a place where it's like, okay, now I don't have to react. Now I can be responsible and respond, like, in a more mature way. So, with all that being said about the content of the theme today, I want us to be able to clear our heads a little bit and to calm our minds a little more so it's not so heavy or so congested or so, caught in the extreme nature of things so that we can drop into the authentic nature of who we are, which is that place of love and acceptance, kindness and compassion, and not fear and judgment that we're seeing playing out. So I'll meet you on the mat and let's start. How are we going to start today? Um, let's start on our backs with our knees hugging in. So we're going to get right into the first pose. And I want you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Improving the quality of your breath so it's slow and smooth, smooth and rhythmic. And then notice how you're holding yourself in this position. It's been said the way we approach poses is typically revealing how we approach life. And so I was just talking about the extremes of things, the polarity of things. So notice, are you just barely holding on? Is it too little of a stretch? Too little of a tuck? A little bit lazy on your part? Or are you pulling and squeezing the knees in with the death grip? Is it putting a little strain on your low back because you're doing too much? And see if you can find some middle ground. Not too much, not too little. This middle way is where we're stepping into a place of neutrality. We're not trying to prove anything. We're not trying to resist it or shy away from it, but finding that just right hold. Maintaining the breath to keep the awareness up. On your next inhale, just breathe in. As you exhale, you're going to roll to your left side, all the way to your left side, keeping the knees bent and stacked. Extend your arms out, stack palm to palm. And as you inhale, you're going to fly the right arm up and over to the opposite side of the body. And as you exhale, you're going to lift the arm up and bring it back over to the left. We're going to flow back and forth. Inhale, opening into the spinal twist. And exhale, coming back to where you began. Now remember, if we want to be in that more neutral place in our hearts and minds, where we're not being too pulled in one direction or another and not being led towards any extreme or any particular opinion or stronghold, then it takes a controlled breath. And if we master the breath, we help to tame the mind and the heart. The next time you open into the twist, hold here, but breathe steadily and evenly. Follow the wave of the breath up and down through the right side body. On your next inhale, let's go ahead and breathe in. As we exhale, we're going to roll to the left side again. And when you roll to the left side, you can straighten your arm up under your ear, stacking your head on top, or you can prop your head up with your palm. We're going to go into clam pose. As we inhale, the feet stay together, but the right knee is going to lift up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, the clam closes. Inhale, the clam opens. And exhale, they close. And you're going to continue this at a slow rate. And then notice when you're lifting that knee, it may catch at some point, but see if you can open it maybe just a bit more. So this helps to strengthen, I believe it's the gluteus medius. There's like 3 different groupings of muscles in the buttocks: the medius, the maximus, and the minius. And the hip rotation, where we're opening out to the side, I believe goes back to the medius. All right, now we're going to amp this up a little bit. We're going to hover that top leg, flex the foot, and then inhale, you're lifting the knee again. But as you exhale, you descend it down so the thighs and the feet hover, so there's space in between. So even though this may seem a little simple and maybe it's feeling relatively easy for you, when you do these with repetition, it's one of those kind of exercises that sneaks up on you. And then the next day you're like, what did I do? And then you remember, oh yeah, it was the clam poses. All right, set the legs together, straighten them out. Point the right foot and inhale, lift it up. Flex through the ankle and lead with the heel to lower and hover and hold. Point and lift. Flex and descend. We're going to do a few more. Up on the inhale, down on the exhale. This is just warming us up for a pose called Anatasana, which we're going to do now. So as you soar the right leg up, this time, if you need the right hand to help you balance, you don't even have to hold the leg, but you may be able to catch your calf. You might be able to bind around the big toe, and you may even have the opportunity to drive the leg a little closer towards the face. And then set your drishti and breathe. Keep the right leg up, but drop your right hand in front of you. Slide your left foot back and drop the right leg down to the ground. All right, sorry, I know Paris is blocking me. So hopefully you are already feeling the IT band stretch with that top leg. If not, scoot the foot up towards your chin a little bit. And this is cat pulling its tail pose. You can also attempt, don't cramp though, take your right hand to your foot, and then you can squeeze the heel in towards the buttocks and shift the left thigh bone back behind you. So we're opening the stomach meridian on the left leg and the gallbladder meridian on the right. I'm just going to sustain this position, steep it in a moment. Let your breath contribute to your patience. Watching it unravel. Whether or not the sensation increases or decreases. Now, if it goes to the point of pain or strain, of course, let go or come out. If you are still holding the foot behind your back, you can release it. And we'll lower and roll back to center, tucking the knees up towards the chest and wrapping the arms lovingly around. Finding that just right hold. Not too light, not too strong. That happy medium ground. It's that blend of steadiness and ease. Those are the qualities we want in an asana. That same quality we're trying to build in the asana is what we're trying to have mentally. Steadiness and ease. Now, let's roll over to the right side. Straighten the arms, stack the hands. Or start with a twist. As you inhale, carry the left arm up and across to the other side. Now the head can turn, and you can stop at any point along the way. And the exhale will turn you back to your side body. Inhale, rolling open. Exhale, returning to where you began. Continue this repetition. And the next time you open into the twist, remain. The chin can be in line with your chest or rolling towards the left shoulder. Inhale, exhaling, come out of the twist. And then determine, do you just want to lay on your straight arm or do you need to lift your head up? We're going to clam next. Your inhale is creating space between the knees, and the exhale returns them back to touch. Inhale, opening. Exhale, closing. Just continue that in sync with your breath. Then we'll amp it up. We'll hover the leg, flex the foot when you're ready. Turning that knee up, rotating the hip open. Two more. By the way, if you have any issues with your SI joints presently or in the future, these clam poses are really good for helping to work through that. Now straighten your legs. Point the left foot, inhale, lift the leg skyward, flex through the ankle and lower through your heel. And then continue that. The pointing and the flexing is important because that's going to help to engage the muscles up through the leg. And that way you're going to be toning your body more. And then we'll hold the more yin variation in just a moment. In fact, we'll go there next. So let's inhale, lift the left leg. It can just stay elevated. You can take your hand to cup the calf. You can also take the peace mudra around the big toe. And then here we just hold. Letting the muscles elongate. Letting the lubrication come back into the joints. This will aid our flexibility. Now there's 3 meridians here getting a little activation, and it's the liver, kidney, and spleen meridians. All right, we're going to take the left hand down first. Bend the right knee and draw that foot back next. And then third, we'll control the descent of the left leg as it sails over the body. Yep. If you want to switch your left hand behind your back, catch that right foot and kind of scoot the thigh bone back. You can even squeeze that heel closer towards the tailbone if you desire. And then you can close your eyes or find a drishti point to aid your focus. Let's release the back foot. And instead of rolling to our back like we did before, take your left leg to join your right. And you're going to just turn onto your belly. Separate your feet about as wide as your mat. Prop up onto your forearms and take the yin form of Sphinx. Before you do anything else, close your eyes. And I just want you to check in and be inquisitive and think about your daily life. And if you're constantly looking down at a keyboard or texting or, paperwork, I would keep the head up. If you're constantly gazing forward, like driving a lot through the day, or gazing straight ahead into a screen, maybe you should bow your head and let the neck go. This way, you're personalizing your practice and striking some balance. If you do decide to bow your head, it is nice to slightly turn the head towards one shoulder and then slightly lean it over to the other. And there's usually a particular thread or nook or cranny that really speaks up loudly. And I would hold it there and breathe into it. If this begins to aggravate the back, you can always walk the elbows forward and prop into prayer hands. Let's go ahead and lower towards the brow. Slide your feet closer together. And then once your feet slide closer together, separate your arms wide, lift your feet up, and just swish the knees, the shins, the ankles side to side, just like windshield wipers on your car. Now, release the feet, curl the toes, slide your hands under your shoulders. Start to roll up and back to downward facing dog. When you arrive to downward facing dog, give a little pickup to your hips. A bow with your head. Some ground deep through your hands and feet.
Maybe opening the eyes and seeing things a little differently. One reason why our heads are so muddy right now is because sometimes our perception of reality is different from the truth of reality. Right now, with information overload, sometimes we can't even discern the difference. Walk your hands back towards your feet. Lower your heels, softly bend your knees, and just let go. Close your eyes, notice your feet, notice the weight sinking down through them, and noticing if you have the tendency to put more weight on one side or the other. And if you have that tendency, if you discover that habit, can you find the middle ground? Can you provide equanimity? Practice an audible out breath. Walk the hands out. Sink down to your knees. And we're going to do half dragonfly. We'll send the left leg out first. Right heel in towards the body. Right to the center of the body. And then lift up energetically and walk it out. So to be truly yin, we relax the leg. Doesn't matter about structure. And we come down. You may need a block to bring the floor to you to find the middle ground here. If you're more flexible, feel free to descend lower. If you have a healthy back, it's okay to round. Some people even like taking the block under the brow here. Inhale slowly. Exit out. I'll take it to the other side. Right leg will extend. Left heel draws in towards the pubic bone. Lift up energetically at first, and then exhale. Walk it forward. So I want to remind you guys, we just had a new moon, and we're moving towards the eclipse season. A lunar eclipse on the 26th of May, and then a solar eclipse coming up in June. So with eclipses, there may be more corruption and scandals and craziness occurring. Think about how if we held ourselves in a middle ground, a neutral space, how we can coast through this without getting riled up, without losing ourselves in it. So I want you to be contemplative for a moment about the things that help you to neutralize. Obviously, one of the things for us is yoga and meditation. So it could be a nice time of the year with this coming up to make sure we're practicing more. It could be walking for you, could be sitting down with a book, just getting lost in someone else's story. Could be just spending time out in nature. Think about what brings you immediate kind of peace and neutrality. Inhale, let's slowly start to back our way out. This time we're going to extend both legs. I know this makes it a little bit more challenging. We're going to take the left arm up and cross over towards the right thigh. Remember that top arm again doesn't have to be so outstretched. It can curve. Another way to use a block in this pose is to have it on the kind of outside if you need to prop, because gravity can really, play a number on us in this one. Inhale, slowly come up. Take your time. Fly the right arm up. Exhale, we'll curve it over. If you already know you want that block for some additional support, just bring it under you. Inhale, we'll come up. All right, while you're sitting upright, let me go ahead and give you a visual of what we're gonna do. Um, we're gonna be coming down to our backs, and we'll first do supported bridge, and we'll hang out here for a little bit. And then instead of just doing the simple waterfall, we're actually gonna open up and be here today. And then we'll eventually end here. Now, if this one causes any aggravation with your back, feel free to come down like this. Okay, so don't feel like you have to stay in it. So go ahead and bring a block with you. Come down to your back, bend your knees. Root the feet, tuck and lift, and slide the prop underneath the sacrum. Slightly tuck the shoulders under, roll the palms open, and just be here. Now, please know this pose is available to you if what we're about to do becomes too much. So on your next inhale, let's float the feet up, but then separate the legs wide. And then you can explore, usually yin, we don't necessarily engage the feet, but I'm okay if you want to here. So if you want to just explore, how does it feel one way or the other versus keeping the feet neutral? This is where you start to really feel the interplay of gravity. This is not meant to be torture. So if you start to feel like too much quivering or just, taking it past the point of your edge, go ahead and take the feet to the floor. Let them join together. Keep the knees apart. Recline butterfly. And if the block is starting to aggravate the back, lift the knees first. Remove the block so you can roll the sacrum down to the floor. Remember, extremes cause us to react. So if you take a yoga pose to an extreme, you might react, and that reaction of trying to get out could be dangerous. So that's why we don't want to take it to the extreme. Even in yin, we don't want to stay in the exact 100% edge of the pose because it can be too much for these longer periods of time. So I'm saying this and I'm starting to feel like I'm going there. So I'm coming out. Feel free to join me. I'm lifting away from the block. So roll back down to the floor. And we're tucking those knees in. So this has actually become one of our touchstone poses today, the wind release pose. You might be feeling energy dispersing from where it had been collecting. Just let all of that absorb. And then if you want to massage your low back, just take your hands to the tops of the knees and circle them around the same direction several times over, and then reverse it. And then I would suggest, if you have the bolster available, I would suggest putting a block down, setting up the bolster this way, and then reclining the legs over the bolster and the back down to your mat. This is what I call Brook pose. And notice with the bend of your knees not being so extreme, your low back isn't completely flat to the floor. You're maintaining that neutral spine. And now in Shavasana, we're trying to continue to neutralize the mind and the heart so that we're not emotionally pulled in one extreme or another. And our ideas or beliefs, opinions or judgments are not being extreme, pulling us in one direction or another. So basically, we're tuning into the state of yoga where we feel at one and at peace, where we feel balanced, centered. So to maintain this or to get there, if you're not feeling like you are, then use the technique of your breath. And when your mind gets pulled towards a thought, return to the breath. Hearing the bell chime, take some deeper sips of breath
And begin to open up some movement in your hands and feet. If you want to take that wind release pose, tucking the knees in towards the belly and chest, your arms can draw around, and you can rock and sway from side to side. Turning over to one, coming up to take a seat. Joining your hands to prayer. May we all walk away from this practice being free and at peace by anything out of our control, by anything imposed upon us by another, and by any internal stressors of our own. May we be drawn away from extremes to walk the middle way. May we find moments in our day to bring us back to a neutral and more centered space.